Hey guys, and welcome to our March Madness 2020 special
I may
of
throw
It's
up on
About
this one
Time.
though,
Yeah,
and it is literally madness.
this is a different type of bracket. We're not dealing with the Swiss industry this year.
Yeah, tragic.
So we're going to be going with the 2020 Asian Watch Madness. There is your bracket right there. We are going to fill it out for you. We are your bracketologists, just like last year when we
A
did the
doctor
Divers
can't
Watch
even help this
special.
bracket though.
But this is going to be interesting. So let's get right to it. Jared, first, before we do that, our customary of what's on the list.
Yeah, please. This will be my favorite part of the
It's about the
episode.
only Swiss part of this episode.
All right. So, I don't know if you guys may or may not know, but I did buy the, and I happen to love it. I don't think I've showed it on the camera yet. Actually, what we're gonna do is we're gonna end up pausing this video, maybe at the end, so I could show it to you guys, just so I can make myself feel better after I almost get the coronavirus with this thing here. Just saying.
Every time somebody says that, the stock market drops another 100. So shut up.
Well, anyway, so there's a film coming out April 9th. No Time to Die, Daniel Craig's last stint as James Bond. I'm really excited about it. It should be a great film. So a little bit inspired by it. By the way, if you guys want, also check out my channel. Feel free. We'll put like a link in the description below. You guys will see like videos on some of these watches and stuff. I have one of the coolest segments coming up, by the way. Sorry, I'm doing a shameless plug right now. I have to because I'm just trying to delay from getting to this shit. And yes, I said shit because that's what it is. But anyways, I'm having the coolest, I think, like little mini series on strictly dive watches. Swiss made, but also not exactly Swiss made. It could be Japanese made, but it's literally, if you guys tune in and see the episodes, you guys will be uber beyond impressed. So I'm obviously a dive watch fan, as Drew knows. It's like my go-to watch for everything. So what I did recently, and Drew, I'm going to let Drew say his nickname since I'm kind of bashing this episode a little bit. So I'm going to let him say what his nickname is.
I've been good. I've been real good.
Yeah, he has been.
I'm holding it.
This is the Christopher Ward C60 1000 Trident. So Drew's nickname for it, I'll say, is because he's not, is Cheese Whiz, and I'll let him explain why. But anyways, two things that I love about this watch, maybe even three or whatever, four things. Titanium, 1,000 meters of water resistance, so half the weight of stainless steel. It's also got actually a luminous bezel, which is kind of unbelievable. Day date, which is just kind of cool and a bonus. And just a nice kind of deep blue dial. Just re-regulated it today. It actually comes as a chronometer, which means -4 to +6 seconds per day. But how I got it from the factory is running minus a half a second slow a day. None of my watches run slow, so I sped it up just slightly. It's running about the same as the Omega Seamaster. Actually, I'm going to let Drew talk for a minute. I'm going to go get the Seamaster.
Oh, that's so nice. On my wrist today is the Quorum Admiral's Cup, and this is the Sea Tides. Okay, this has been on a previous episode, which actually never aired, so this is the first time this is actually being shown today. This is a pretty rare Admiral's Cup because its main function is to tell high tide and low tide. A lot of mariners wear it. Pretty expensive piece. These were big in the early to mid 2000s. So this one's probably, in the 90s, 2000s. This is probably 15, 20 years old. But it is a nice piece. Definitely I'm going to wear it a lot during the summer when I go down the shore. As you can see, there's the exhibition case back with the hand-painted.
I get something else too.
Back. So there you go.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. I'm back. I had to get something.
Apparently it's playtime.
Oh my God, it's so much fun. Yeah, so we're gonna save this motherfucker for the end. Oh, it's a bad boy. But by the way, it actually, like, it's one of these is equal to pretty much one of all these except for two brands. Actually, and then some.
Yeah, well.
So, yeah. But
can't disagree with him with what we have on our wrist and what's on the table right now. So
yeah.
Okay, so let's get to the actual brackets. We are now in March.
Should we stall anymore?
No. Let's go right to the freaking bracket.
Well, technically February 29th, leap year.
Yeah. So, all right. So we're on the eve of March Madness, and it's time to do the bracket.
Oh, God.
And you just saw the bracket.
I'm gonna vomit.
And again, how these are rated, just like last year, on a series of 5 categories. You have brand reputation.
We have shit.
Features
Crap.
and functions.
Sorry.
Affordability, looks, and resale. Okay, so each one is rated from 1 to 10, added up, and they compete against each other. So, first one.
Wow, these pens are not good.
First one we have is Grand Seiko against the 8th seed, Meager.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna let you take the lead on these.
Well, I know Jared likes Grand Seiko. I'm not the biggest fan of Grand Seiko, so what do you like best about Grand Seiko in this matchup?
Well, no, I actually have to ask you why you don't like it.
To me, Grand Seiko is almost like Cheese Whiz. Grand Seiko puts a Swiss price tag on a Japanese watch, and that really bothers me because I just don't find the quality of, even though they're a good brand. Grand Seiko is a good brand. It's one of the best brands on this bracket. But in terms of the overall rating, which we're doing based on the reputation, features, affordability, looks, and resale, you're going to have a little problem with their price tag. Okay, because Grand Seiko's price tag is anywhere between mostly brand new $3,000 to $5,000. I would say.
It's in I mean it's in like Omega Rolex territory for sure.
And it's not an Omega or Rolex standard. Even though they do a great job with what they have, it's still a second-rate watch compared to the other big brands in the Swiss industry. I just have a problem with people marking up their shit. When they don't have
oh shit! Which brand is notorious for doing that though?
Well, there's a lot of brands notorious.
No, what brand is notorious for doing that?
But Rolex loves
oh my
marking up
god,
their
they
shit.
are. When I mean the markup capital king, like holy shit.
But Grand Seiko is the Rolex of the Japanese markup. So, but when you put them against Meager, okay, it's your basic Chinese brand. This one actually was pretty close for me, believe it or not, only because of the affordability issue. Okay, this is what really knocks Grand Seiko back, is the affordability issue. Normal people can't afford Grand Seiko.
So can't afford Rolex.
So, but we ain't having Rolex on this freaking bracket. Stick to your own fucking bracket. So, what we have is an affordability issue. However, the resale on Grand Seikos are pretty good. So, they are moving on in this bracket.
They're ridiculous.
Okay. And they move on by a score of 37 to 35.
Huh.
Okay, so they do move on by 2 only because of the resale value. It does bring them over the top in this matchup. Jared, what do you got in this matchup?
Oh, well, it's not even I'm actually just kind of doing my bracket right now. I'm actually not going to show you guys my bracket, but I'm going to more so just explain it. So the number 1 versus number 8 seed, this is not even a close even contest. I guess maybe you can. For me, Grand Seiko is a 50 to 10
blowout
favorite, absolutely.
Main reason?
But here's the reason why. When it comes to the Japanese brands, I mean like literally all the Japanese brands, Grand Seiko is on the level of the some of the, not like, let's say, top tier Swiss. When you think about top tier Swiss brands, just in general, you're talking about like Patek, Vacheron. Like we're talking like good mid-level luxury, Swiss brands. I've been following Grand Seiko now for a number of years, and they're honestly ridiculous. They're so good at what they do. The finishing on their watches. They also come out with a very wide variety. Theoretically, and I'm going to hate to say this to be mean, but the brand underneath it, who cares about their name when you mention Grand Seiko? That's just how I feel about it. So it's 50 to 10 on
Okay,
me.
so you got a pretty big blowout there. The 4 versus 5 seed, Casio against Fossil. Well, anybody who knows me knows This one's not going too far with Fossil. I don't really have any respect for Fossil. Even though they are very popular, I will give that to them. I think they're the third or fourth most popular watch brand in the world.
Which one?
Fossil. I mean, it is disturbing, but it's true, and they do have a lot of reputation. So because of their popularity, they do get bonus points for that. Their looks aren't horrible. They have so many designs, you're going to have a look you like every once in a while. Any blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. The resale value is crap. Affordability is very easy. They range anywhere between $50 and $100, so the affordability is very nice.
Yeah, mine were for like 25.
Yeah, I mean, when you put it against Casio, Casio's a better brand. They've been around for a long time. They focus on digital, but they are great when it comes to water-resistant watches as well. They do last a long time, and they are very affordable. So I do have Casio moving on 38 to 34.
Interesting.
Against Fossil, even though Casio really doesn't focus on automatics, and Fossil does.
Casio has no automatics.
No, they don't. But Fossil has crap automatics, so it really doesn't matter. 38, 34, they moving on to the next round.
This is going to be funny. So for me, I absolutely have Fossil moving on. And actually, here's the reason
Really?
why. Yeah.
What score?
And actually, I put them as 50 to 10, same thing as Grand Seiko.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
But I'm going to explain why, you know. So here's the funny thing about Fossil, is that they have somewhat done a reinvention of themselves over the last 3 to 4 years. Casio, again, yes, longer history, don't get me wrong. That's where most of the points come into play for them.
Very affordable, too.
They are, absolutely. But in terms of, so how I looked at the bracket was, you know, I do look at history a little bit of a brand.
Edifice has been getting a lot of play. Casio Edifice.
Yes, you know, certainly, but there's something to me that it sticks out in my mind, and that's variety. You know, the reason why I rank Fossil so high is because so now I used to sell watches. I used to work in multiple watch stores, and Fossil was one of the brands that I dealt with. I actually caught the eye of a lot of people, along with, believe it or not, G-Shocks, and it's not too surprising there. And I'm gonna say this to be a little bit, I don't want to be too mean, but to the slightly uneducated consumer. Mm-hmm. You know, but it's also based off of what they're looking at. So, sure. I mean, no offense to anybody out there. You know, to each their own and whatever. But, so with Fossil, what I love about them is that their variation. I mean, yes, I mean, their automatics are garbage. I mean, they're not good movements whatsoever.
No, they stink.
They're probably the lowest grade.
And they break real quick.
Of Seiko, you know, kind of thing. I mean,
they look interesting, but they're crap.
They kind of, I don't know if they break as much, but their accuracy, I would say, is as good as a watch I'm going to show you in a few seconds.
The thing drops, it goes in 4 pieces. It's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, it's, no, absolutely. It's not the greatest made piece for sure, but I have Fossil moving on by a wide margin only because, again, Casio's got the history, but I like the variation with Fossil. And literally, with Fossil, believe it or not, they have very deep discounts in retail, so you could get them for literally, I would say sometimes even $40 to $50. Casio you can get for around $25, which, you know, obviously there's got to be a little bit of a
advantage there, yeah.
You know, slight, but for me, Fossil absolutely moves on. Just for that category, 4 versus. I mean,
fair enough.
It's a 4 versus a 5, so it's going to be.
It's pretty close. Yeah,
kind of close there.
Orient versus Seagull, the 6 versus the 3 versus the 6.
Yeah, I was going to say, you want me to take the lead on this one?
Go ahead.
All right, so I have experience with both of these. Actually, I mean, I have experience with a few of these brands actually on this list, particularly with Orient and Seagull.
As do I.
And so here's what they're both known for, which is actually kind of funny, is that they're actually both known for their in-house movements. I will say that because Seagull makes their own movements, and so does Orient. The funny thing with me here, and you guys will see with a lot of these ratings, I did this like an all or nothing kind of thing, because that's with the Japanese brands to me. I'm not like, oh, I'm gonna like maybe side with one and maybe take the other. Again, this is a 50 to 10 for me. Swiss brands I'm very
A lot of
different
blowouts
with.
today.
Yeah, with Swiss brands I'm very different, but with the Japanese brands it's all or nothing. So for me, I have Orient personally moving on, and actually here's the biggest reason why, or two biggest reasons why I should say. Orient's movements are so much better than Siegel's. It's not even funny. They're regulated a lot better. But then Orient, a lot of Siegel's movements actually don't even hack. They're like, they almost remind me of the Fossil movements a little bit, based off the experience that I have with them. Orient has many more features in their watches, much more durable movements, much more accurate. I mean, they're still rated to like plus 15, minus 25, but they perform. Seriously, some of them perform to within about 5 to maybe 10 seconds a day, which is actually pretty good for a Japanese watch. So for me, Orient takes the cake on this one.
Okay, well, Orient is owned by Seiko. So that is the reason why they are so advanced, and they've come a long way in a short period of time. So is Siegel. Siegel, you got to give them credit. They do a nice job for being a cheap watch, and they do look good. You have a lot of people like in their skeletons. They do actually do a lot of nice things with their
Actually, the reason why I gave them the points that I did was because of design. They
yeah,
do have nice
they really
designs.
do have nice designs. They really fool you with a lot of this stuff that they come out with. The resale is not terrible because they're not expensive to begin with, and their brand reputation has gotten better. However,
I actually had one sold it. I didn't take as much of a hit as I did on some of my Swiss watches, which I will give them credit for that.
right, but that all being said, Orient's a better brand. They have better features, they have better reputation, they have better movement, and they last longer. So this one, even though it was pretty close for me, 43, 41, only because of the affordability of Siegel, as opposed to Orient. Orient is more expensive. So you do have Siegel's advantage there. However, overall better watch, Orient does move on. Okay, so now we get to Bulova against Stour, the 2 versus the 7. And this is interesting because Bolova's been bought out by Citizen. So they're a division of Citizen. So you're really managing that, the old brand and the old reputation against the new brand and the new reputation now owned by Citizen against more of a fashion watch, which is Stour. Interesting with Stour is, and this was a close one, this is actually a 1-point race. Stour actually has a lot of interesting movements. They have a lot of interesting features. They're really cool looking. If you look in their magazines, they really do a nice job. They've come a long way.
Yeah, they've differentiated
for a
their
magazine
line.
watch, I like to call it. And they actually last pretty long. They do have the automatic movements. They do have divers watches. They have a variety of shit, just like Bulova. So yeah, it's actually a pretty close, and they're much more affordable than Bulova. Bulova, you're up in the $300 to $600 range. Okay, sometimes $700. Whereas Stour, you can get them anywhere between $50 and $150. So they're a lot cheaper. They're more affordable. They're actually better looking than Bulova's. Bulova's kind of more of the plain, in that sense. But Bulova's a higher quality watch. They do last a long time. They do have solar, which is something that Stour doesn't have. And they're just an overall better watch, and they have a better resale than Stour does. So for that reason, Bulova is actually moving on to the next round by a score of 39 to 38. So there's the first half of the bracket in the first round. So there's your first half of the Elite 8.
Yeah, to me, I gotta tell you guys this. Bulova, actually, I think every day of the week is much more superior. Again, I give it a 50 to 10, and here's really my my biggest reasoning. If you go on a Bulova's website, this is kind of interesting. They've actually taken a little bit of a turn, which I love. And believe it or not, it's since they've been bought out
crystal?
by Citizen. No, since they've been bought out by Citizen, and this is kind of interesting because Citizen really doesn't play. They're more known for their the solar watches.
Yep.
Really actually unbelievable with that.
Really good with that.
Yeah, I mean that's their bread and butter.
Really good.
So what Citizen did, and I actually like this move by them, was that Bulova was a little bit of a competitor with Citizen, so they acquired them, which is great. And this started happening when I was leaving the watch shops. They have now more of a focus on automatics, and that's what their future is compared to their quartz watches, although they're still there. But they're more going into dress watches, they're going into some divers watches, they're going into a lot of different things. And the movements are okay. I wouldn't rank them as high as, let's say, Orient, certainly not as high as Grand Seiko, of course. But they play in their league what is affordable for an automatic piece. And I like the direction, I like the future that they're heading in. So for me, Bulova wins really by a really good margin. And again, they're really making a great transition. I like what Citizen is doing with Bulova, and they're really making them stick out in a different way. Citizen didn't want to hurt themselves because they know what they're good at, and they don't want to take any market share away from that. They knew what Bulova was good at doing with competing with them, and now they're trying to make them a slightly separate branch. So kudos to Citizen for that, and my hat's off to Bulova for making some technical leaps and bounds now.
Well, speaking of Citizen, that is the other 1 seed against the 8 seed Geneva on the right side of the bracket. And Geneva is your typical, I can get it at, I like to call it a 7-Eleven watch.
Anywhere you want.
Anywhere. It could be sold at Walmart. You find them anywhere, okay? They're probably, that and Miga are the 2 cheapest, obviously, on this board. So they actually have very high affordability. Looks aren't terrible. It depends. Again, blind squirrel can find a nut.
Fashion.
Yeah, it's a fashion watch. The resale isn't horrible because they're cheap to begin with anyway, so you can probably get something back for it. They don't really focus on features, and your reputation's shit. But in terms, Citizen is definitely a better brand. It's a much bigger brand for everything that Jared just said about them. Obviously, in retrospect to Bulova, they're the parent brand. They have a lot more options. They have automatics, they have solar, they have quartz, they have, literally everything. A huge brand. So it really isn't a contest here. I have them moving on over Geneva, 41-36. So that one's not even close in my view.
Yeah, this one for me is a 50-10. Again, fortunately, unfortunately, but Citizen is absolutely incredible in my opinion. I used to sell a ton of them. I know almost everything that there is to know about their movements, their features, the different watches that they offer. Again, they're a brand that offers a lot of variation. Deep discounts at retail, go on eBay and get them. Gray market, no problem. Joma shop, no issue. I've owned a few Citizens. I happen to like them. The only reason why I got off of them was because they really, again, the movements were okay. They really didn't offer anything, great, but, I favor Swiss, but, I will say on, on the right side, they're a pretty big power player.
They are, and we both have them moving on. Oh. It really wasn't even an issue. It wasn't even any contest. This is where it gets interesting. Menace against Bernioli. The 4 against the 5 seed.
I'm actually surprised he has one of these as a 4 seed, but that's just me.
Yeah, and the reason only is they're known as a 4 seed because nobody knows them. Okay, when I talk about reputation, I couldn't even tell you much about it. I had to look them up myself. They're rated actually very high on the boards. People love them, but they're almost non-existent. It's hard to find them. Okay, so for that reason alone, nobody would know them.
There's actually only one way you would know. I've followed them over the last several months. I know about them because I read watch news every day, kind of like people at the stock market.
Right.
I'm always getting updates on them, and when I first found out about them, I looked them up, and I'm like, damn, that's nice. And I saw the price, and I'm like, oh, shit. So, yeah.
And, when I look at the 4 against the 5, Bernioli... another one you wouldn't really necessarily know, but the thing that I love about Bernioli is the things that they do that really only 1 or 2 other watch companies do. When you can have in your collection a tri-retrograde, that is extremely rare. There's only 1 or 2 other brands that actually will attempt that. And the tri-retrograde really separates them apart from everybody else in terms of that is just a unique feature that nobody else has. And Menace is a small little brand. They have their hand movements. They're around $3,000 to $5,000. Again, you're up in the Grand Seiko range. It's not affordable. It looks nice. The resale, I don't really know. It's kind of unknown because there's so few of them out there. I don't know what kind of market it would have. So there's a lot of variables that I just can't go with in this round. And they don't have a lot of features. They have a date. I mean, I looked at all their models. The biggest thing they had was a date and maybe a power reserve. Whereas Bernoulli has a ton of different types of watches with a ton of different types of functions. So, and they're very affordable. They're anywhere between 50 and 150 bucks. So for the average person to go with a watch where somebody would say, what is that? It ain't going to be a Menace. It's going to be a Bernoulli. I have Bernoulli upsetting Menace here, 40 to 35. So they move on to the next round because of the tri-retrograde.
So for me on my side, Menace does move on. The reason why, again, maybe it's because I'm biased. It could be that. I do know the brand very well. Of course, not exactly the most affordable, but I think the theme that I kind of took, I was going to kind of say this at the end, but I'm going to kind of say it now because it's going to be a theme for me going forward, is that, for me, being an educated watch consumer, it's really hard to look at certain brands and kind of get a little excited. I think Drew hit on a lot of fantastic points, and I don't disagree with him at all. Here's
and I have one.
Yeah,
in my collection.
Here's my problem with the brand though, with Bernoulli. What happens when you buy a watch again that's very affordable, $50 to $100? The movements really are not the best. To me, it almost reminds me of like a Seagull a little bit. Again, Seagull's not a bad brand. I'm not saying anything bad about them. But to me, Seagull and Bernoulli are very similar-ish, but I do agree with Drew that there are more features. But when the problem is I've just educated myself too much on these watches, and for me, Menace will never be a fancy watch, but in terms of the beauty and then the craftsmanship and everything that goes into it,
they're an expensive workhorse. Is basically what they are.
Very. I'm not going diving with them whatsoever.
Nope.
I'm going to wear them for like an everyday in the office or for a dress occasion, but I'm not wearing them to the beach, of course. So a little limiting with that, but in terms of just what they do,
you can let her down, babe.
Whew, they're somewhat the real deal, although they really don't market themselves. They really don't put their names out there. The only way you're going to know about them is being a really even more insider than, let's say, like an Oris, kind of thing. And you really have to pay attention to news.
Yeah, I understand. I can't argue with his points either. You can argue it either way.
Yeah, I agree with what Drew just said. You can argue it really either way.
Yeah, you could see each other, but him and I now have two different picks in the first round. So now when you go to the 3 seed against the 6 seed, what do you think, Reese's? You like the 3 seed against the 6 seed? You like G-Shock? I don't either. Okay. So we have G-Shock against Elgin. Okay. This is a far cry from where this is where Jared goes into the shit category.
No. Actually, I'm going to surprise you right now.
When you're talking about Elgin, it's a shame that this is the Elgin of today, because if this was the Elgin of 50 years ago, this wouldn't even be a contest. Elgin was bought out by a Chinese brand about 25 years ago. They've been remade and remade and remade. They have some nice designs.
I have G-Shock moving on here.
Yeah, I bet you do. They have some real nice designs.
There's actually a reason for it, though.
G-Shock is much better when it comes to divers' watches, when it comes to knocking the living shit out of them. You can run them over with a tank. That's kind of their claim to fame. They're ugly.
I'm getting high fives and kisses.
That's nice. They're ugly as sin. They really don't have much outside of a They're kind of like Casio in that aspect, where they're focused on digital, but they have some analog digital combos. But that's what they're known for. They're both affordable. Elgin's more affordable. Elgin's a nicer looking watch. And that all being said, I have G-Shock moving on.
How much can you get Elgins for?
20 to $40.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, so all right, so
Much more affordable.
A little less than G-Shock, yeah.
But I do have G-Shock moving on.
Yeah.
39 to 36, just because Elgin is not what it used to be, and unfortunately, G-Shock just had the right matchup in this round. So
Actually,
they are moving on for me too.
The reason why I gotta say that they're moving on, and I have to tell you something, I actually hate G-Shocks.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
A, changing the batteries on them are a bitch, and secondly, changing the time on them is just a half a nightmare. And what they keep coming out with, it makes it even harder sometimes to set the time. Although some people will be like, oh no, you could do it via your cell phone. Kind of true, but they're not making as many of those watches. Again, because they're much more expensive. People don't want to spend that money. G-Shock is the only watch, maybe in the world, where you could drop it literally from the Empire State Building on its way down and it would still be working when it hit the ground.
Yeah,
but
I can't agree. We're not really disagreeing with each other tonight. Yeah. We're bringing up the other side of each other's points, but normally, you're expecting a fist fight, you ain't getting one.
I'm not happy about it.
No, I ain't either. I don't even like it. But it has to move on. It's just the way it is. It's just the matchup they got. They got the right matchup for that round.
That's why I have a pain look on my face.
Yeah, me too. I'm about to shit. All right, so number 2 versus the number... Yeah. Number 2 versus the number 7 matchup.
I want to bring in a prop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Time for prop.
So it's actually funny. So,
Seiko versus Michael Kors.
Yeah, this is a watch, believe it or not. So this is the original Seiko Monster. This is a watch actually my dad gave to me. He really never wears it. He doesn't really wear watches in general. I'm the watch guy in the family. But he gave me this watch. I actually had a request from him. I said, since you don't wear it anymore, can I have it? When I mean that this is a beat the living bejesus out of anything that you want with it kind of watch, for an automatic, okay? Now G-Shocks are the epitome or whatever it is of the durable category. This would survive anything like a zombie apocalypse times 20. I mean, if I'm going to work out, if I'm going to play golf in a watch, if I'm going to do something, I'm wearing this Seiko.
Whereas Michael Kors wouldn't survive Bernie Sanders with a cold. So, I mean, it's horrible. In terms of, this is a far cry. This is not even close. I have Seiko moving on 42 to 34. Michael Kors is a fashion brand. Stick to purses. For some reason, they went into watches. A lot of people bought them, but they're made in China. They're crap.
Literally worth about $10
Nothing.
Maximum.
There's no resale value, guys. The looks may be okay if they come out with a design you like.
They retail for like $150, $200 plus, right?
Yeah, and you can get about 40 for them on eBay.
And then they die after like 6 months.
Horrible. They don't use anything that is remotely expensive. The most expensive thing about them is the screws. They're horrible. So no, the screws are about I could use them for other watches, but outside of that,
they're easy to lose. I've lost my fair amount.
I'm not talking about ladies. I'm not talking about purses or bags or anything else like that, or coats or whatever the hell else that Michael Kors sells. When it comes to watches, it ain't there. And they're lucky they were a 7 seed, because the only thing that was stopping them was Geneva and Meteor. So, but outside of that, no, this is not even close. 42 to 34. Seiko steamrolls them with a tractor.
Yeah,
okay. Now we go into the Elite 8. Okay, Elite 8. First one up. Now we have Grand Seiko against Casio. Based on what Jared said in the first round, I'm assuming he has Grand Seiko moving past Casio.
Well, I mean, Fossil moved on for me, but I have.
Against Fossil.
I have Grand Seiko bitch slapping Fossil in the face. Bitch slapping them. I mean, literally. Yeah, there's not a lot of words to describe it. Excuse my frankness here, but my God.
What score?
My God, 50-10. This is not even
another blowout.
It's not even remotely even close.
This one...
Again, listen, to your point, it's two different audiences.
Yep.
Two different audiences, so I'm not going to disagree there, but in terms of, again, the educated... I'm playing devil's advocate for the educated watch consumer. I got to go with the unbelievable quality.
Yeah, and I have to agree with you. This one squeaks by 41-40 for me for Grand Seiko, and only because of the reputation. Casio is much more affordable. They don't really have a lot of designs. This is what kind of limits Casio when you get into this type of matchup, because Grand Seiko does have a couple of really nice designs, especially the new one that they came out with.
The things that they have now, if you guys have not seen Grand Seiko's designs, listen, yeah, they're expensive, but I'm going to tell you this.
And they last longer. They have a better reputation and a better resale value than Casio.
You're going to at least break even.
Yeah.
You're not going to lose money.
The affordability really, really puts Casio close against Grand Seiko, because it ain't even close, okay? That's where all their points come in, is the affordability. Anybody can afford a Casio. Not a lot of people can afford a Grand Seiko. And I'm not sure a lot of people want to.
I actually like the points that Drew's making for devil's advocate side of the affordability. I'm speaking to the somewhat higher end. So it's actually good to have both the points of view.
And this one pains me as well, but 41-40 by Casio.
Okay.
Grand Seiko is moving on. It is a better watch overall for the criteria that we're basing it upon today.
The next one, by the way, is going to be unanimous here. So I'm going to let Drew kind of take the ball on it.
And this was close. When you're dealing with, the Grand Seiko obviously against Casio. Now you have Orient, which is the 3 seed, against Bulova, which is the 2 seed. Well, this again was a close one. Okay, because now you got two good brands. Orient is a very good brand, as we mentioned before, and you got Bulova, who is a division of Citizen. Two good brands against each other. But when you put them against each other, Boliva's more expensive. Bulova doesn't have a great resale value, and they don't really have the greatest of looks, like I said before. They both have great reputations, and
both very well known.
And they both have some nice features. Orient has more features. So when I look at this, I say to myself, would I rather have an Orient or a Bulova? For the price and for the overall watch comparison, no, guys, Bulova's out. Here's an upset, 43-41, Orient moving on. Okay, so I have a 3 seed going on against Grand Seiko in the next round. So it's going to be Orient against Grand Seiko on my side of the bracket.
Same with mine.
He matches me, so we have the same.
I've owned plenty of Orients. And,
yeah, I have too.
Damn.
I can't say anything bad about
You'd
them.
be surprised, yeah.
I like them. So, I mean, and this is something that a lot of people don't even know about Orient.
There's one little flaw I'm going to say. It's not terrible, but again, I'm going to play devil's advocate on your side with it. The quality is just a little bit... It's okay. I feel like Seiko is just maybe slightly higher-ish quality than Orient is. Theoretically speaking, they've been around a lot longer also, so that's where you have to maybe tip that to Seiko. But that's the only thing that I'll knock a little bit with Orient. But other than that, damn, they're good.
Yeah.
They're good. And they're in-house, too.
I haven't agreed with them. I can't disagree. Other side of the bracket.
And actually, the cool part about now this one side is that you have two in-house
movements going against each other.
So that's kind of cool.
That's pretty cool. So the way that worked out. Now the other side. Now the number 1 seed, Citizen, against number 5, Bernoulli. For me, I love the tri-retrograde. I love the fact that people can ask you, what is that? Again, but unfortunately it only takes you so far. When you put it against Citizen and all what they have to offer, it's like throwing a small wooden horse against like an armada, which is Citizen. They're one of the largest watch companies in the world.
I'll be right back.
For you guys not to be able to find something in Citizen that you would like against, a unique little watch brand like Bernoulli, who, even though they're great, they can only carry you so far. They don't last as long as Citizens. You really have to take care of them. They're not as durable as Citizen. So, I have to say, as much as I like Bernoulli, and it just by a point, 43 to 42. I have Citizen.
This bracket is close.
Moving on.
Oh, and again, for me,
Citizen against Menace for him.
I have owned Citizens before. I happen to like them. The only thing that I just don't like is just the, again, they're actually, well, Grand Seiko really is, but behind them, in terms of affordability, let's say, and again, playing devil's advocate here, they are like the top brand when it comes to the affordable, sick, amazing movements. I will say that. I mean, Grand Seiko is not. I mean, even with the Grand Seiko 9F quartz and like the 9S and whatever it is, they're still like $1,500 through Seija Japan, and that's even like with discounts. So, for me, again, I look at Citizen, I look at Menace. It's coming down to my education and what I know. I've personally never owned Menace. I would love to own one. I would literally probably just stare at it almost all day. Especially their 7 windows model is just kind of ridiculous.
That's cool.
It's like a 3-dimensional kind of watch.
Yeah.
It reminds me of something that in terms of design, like a JLC would just design or make or something, or like a
That's the coolest thing about them is they're handmade.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, Menace has to move on there. Just continuing with my theme.
Yeah, I can't disagree based on your criteria there.
Yeah.
G-Shock against Seiko.
I'm just gonna hold that up.
Well,
seconds.
I think we know by our past comments which way I'm going here. I'm not going to waste a lot of time on this because G-Shock doesn't deserve a lot of my breath. Yeah. So
let me just put that right over there. Seiko. Oh, hi Seiko.
Yeah, lovely.
Hi there.
Sorry. By a score of 42 to 34. So that one breezes past G-Shock. There's our final four. Jared, your final four is?
So I got Seiko and Orient. On the left, of course, on the right, we have Menace and Seiko.
And I'm 3 out of his 4. Seiko against Orient and Citizen against Seiko. So we have a Grand Seiko and a Seiko in mine. So it's going to be really interesting.
Let's actually start on the right side this time.
Okay, let's go on the right. Sounds like a plan to me. Well, first off, we got Citizen against Seiko. Well, this, obviously, you have 2 behemoths going against each other. So when you look at this, you have to say to yourself, what's the better watch overall? I mean, throw out features, throw out everything out. They both have great reputations. They both have features. They both have solar. They both have automatics. They both have everything you could possibly want. They have titanium. They have stainless steel. They have rubber. They have, and go on and on and on. Again, it's a behemoth against a behemoth. And I just go on which one lasts longer.
There's news in the newsroom. There's news in the newsroom. Guys, I just got something in my ear. Joe, I must interrupt this broadcast for a quick second.
Okay.
ESPN 8, the Ocho, right? Dodgeball, great movie. Whatever. Guys, there's just been major news within this bracket. Major news. There's been a little bit of a change here. A last-minute buzzer beater, right? Menace was playing Seiko, okay? Something injury last minute with Menace. Seiko drilled. They were actually down by 2. They drilled the 3-pointer from the other side of the court. Unbelievable. I'm getting word in my ear. They're screaming. They're going in. Seiko actually moved on from Menace.
Really?
It was a 3. They were down by 2. They threw the ball Hail Mary, like a Tom Brady kind of thing. I don't know what it was. Basketball, football, whatever you want to call it.
So much for Cinderella.
And Seiko.
Goodbye.
They drilled the shot.
They're moving on.
Breaking news. Sorry to interrupt that. I want you to continue, please.
Same with me. Okay, 44-43. Which one do I think is going to last longer between Citizen and Seiko? It comes down to that to me, and it's Seiko. My dad's had a Seiko for 25 years.
But they also drilled the 3-point shot. Yep. I'm sorry, it's loud because there's a celebration.
His father has a Seiko. My father had a Seiko. They've been around for like 30 years, and they're still here. I mean, in terms of the same watch, it just keeps going.
This watch is never,
it's like
ever
the Energizer
going
battery.
to stop.
I mean, it's just the way it is.
You could even melt it, and it's still going to keep
just
running.
Really well made. So Seiko has to go into the finals. So Seiko is moving on. Here's where it gets interesting. Left side of the bracket. Grand Seiko against Orient. Jared, is this close for you?
Unfortunately, it's not, of course, and I don't think I necessarily feel bad. So again, never owning Grand Seiko, owning plenty of Orients. We've seen them at the shows. I've read about them. I see them on eBay. I see them everywhere, whatever it is. Ever since they broke away from Seiko several years ago, it seems. I would say 2 to 3 years ago at this point. So Seiko, Grand Seiko, excuse me, to me, is on the level. Whew, they're ridiculously, unbelievably real. If you ever see them in person, and if you ever handle them, let me just say this: that it's somewhat of like an outer body experience. I don't know if they're exactly on the level of Omega.
They're not.
You know, I can't really say that. It doesn't give me that kind of itch, but in terms of what they do, and then what they offer as well, and then the quality, their history. Their history actually dates back to as long as pretty much Seiko's been around. They've just been like kind of their own within Seiko. Damn, Grand Seiko just takes the cake. Are they affordable again? Hell no, they're not. I mean, the average Joe is never going out to buy one. But in terms of the value, now, this is where for me, like, you know, Grand Seiko versus Orient, I really do like Orient. I do think that they're pretty decent quality. I mean they do compete with most brands, but in terms of the value and what I'm going to get back if I sell an Orient versus a Grand Seiko, but even on their price level points, I mean on Orient I'm going to take a little bit of a hit, let's say about $25 to $50. It's not huge. On Grand Seiko, I'm really not taking any sort of hit. Again, it's almost like an Omega. I'm gonna pretty much take the money back that I put up for it.
Yeah.
So that's just me.
I'm going devil's advocate
for me.
Guys, yeah, nobody's going to afford a Grand Seiko in this bracket, especially really good one. Orient, for the price.
Which is actually a good point. No one will afford it in this bracket.
No.
It's true.
And for the price, for the looks, for the affordability, for the resale, even though what kept this close was the resale for Grand Seikos are actually very good, as opposed to Orient. But when the looks on a lot of these Orients are gorgeous. They really come in a long way. They're a high, reputable brand watch for somebody who's looking for an everyday watch that's under $250. I mean, there's really no contest. I mean, in terms of that. So I have the 1C going down here, and it's got to be a 41 to 37 call because the average person can't afford a Grand Seiko. It's the same problem with Manets.
You forgot to do the breaking news in the year.
No, there was no buzzer beater because it was by 4. All right, they could launch a 3 and still wouldn't get there. I mean, it's not even close in terms of they win it comfortably because even though it's a 1 seed, 3 seed, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, the Orient has, and again, it's a derivative of Seiko.
Actually, I gotta say, it's actually this guy's fault for the reason why my bracket is the way that it is.
Yeah, well,
it's actually his fault.
If you want to go the elitist route, yes, you're going to go with Grand Seiko. If you want to go with an everyday working Donald Trump type of working class Joe, it's going to be Orient, okay? Because Orient gives you more for the money that you're spending.
All right, so with the finals, we have Orient against Seiko for you, correct?
Yes.
And then for the finals from you, we have Grand Seiko against Seiko.
Yes.
That's you know, what I like about that
is... Here's the real Seiko owns this because Orient is a derivative of Seiko, and Grand Seiko is a derivative of Seiko as well. So Seiko is dominating the finals here. It's just what...
They're the biggest brand in
the Japanese world, okay? So, I mean, it's really not surprising.
They're almost like what, you know, I mean...
Pick your poison here. Seiko's going to win in one of these things in terms of just what division. So, Jared, who is your winner when it comes between Grand Seiko and why?
Yeah, so, okay. As much as I love Seiko, and they have one hell of a cult following, wow, they have, I mean, literally, I had a watch recently that I got, and actually, the video after this, we're actually making 2 videos tonight, guys. Believe it or not, after this, we're gonna go have dinner. We're gonna go relax. We're making another video tonight. I'm not gonna tell them what it is. Okay, keep them in suspense. But there was a watch that I had before I had another watch, and I got it. There's one thing, okay, that holds me back from Seiko versus Grand Seiko. Grand Seiko's movements are unbelievably, ridiculously good. Seiko, again, has beaters like you can't freaking believe. I mean, literally, will survive anything. You could take them anywhere, do anything with them. I don't care what it is. They are... you could use them every day for every occasion. They're great. I happen to like them. They have wonderful features. Loom, unbelievable. For me, what it comes down to is this. It comes down to the movement itself with regards to the Seiko, not on the same level. And again, it can't be. Got to play devil's advocate here because Grand Seiko costs, like 10 times or whatever it is what Seiko does. But for me, it really came down to one of the things that Drew and I love to do, because I did this on this one and now it's purring like you can't believe. And again, don't do it unless you have experience with it. But in terms of the regulation, and now I had a Seiko, the newer updated one than this, the one that actually has the bubble on it. It was actually cool. It was nice. I happen to like it. Guys, I could not get it regulated. The regulation on Seikos is horrendous. They really are. I mean, you could sit there for hours and days and move the thing just a hair. And literally, I move things a hair and it does what I wanted to do. On Seiko, it doesn't do that. So I had to nitpick here, unfortunately. I happen to love Seiko. I have a lot of respect for them. Really no hate for them at all, even if their movements are the way that they are, like I said. But for me, Grand Seiko is just the wow of the Japanese side. They are just somewhat of a heavyweight. And again, in terms of affordability, hell no. In terms of the quality, they have the same amount of features that Seiko does and even more. So that's another...
And what was your final score?
This one was the closest, obviously, but I gave Grand Seiko the edge 50-40. I did. It was the closest out of all the races for me. But, oh my God, this one was a little hard.
Yep.
It was a little hard.
On my end, listen, again, you're going with a Seiko or a derivative of Seiko, which is Orient. And I just, for the reason Jared said, Seikos are really, really tough to regulate.
Really hard.
Really tough.
It's next to impossible. The best you're gonna get them is probably 20 seconds a day.
Orients are actually easier.
And they're better.
In terms of, and this is kind of an upset, but when you're dealing with a brand that is a derivative of it, they have their own technology and innovation, and they're easier to access. They're easier to get inside the watch. They make more sense. They have nicer designs than Seiko, and they really come out with a lot more models than Seiko. They have more choices than Seiko does. They have more colors. What they give you, I mean, just go on their website. I mean, this is like a nice little pitch to Orient, but I mean, it's a really, really interesting, I mean, it's splitting hairs. I mean, Orient is going to be your champion on my bracket, 43-42. It's close, and there's the full bracket right there. I mean, it is close. However, it's a personal preference, and I've had them.
This is mine, just to give you guys
bracket as well.
I mean, it's not the numbers are on there, but it's
okay. That's what it looks like. I mean, it is.
This is what it is.
We have two winners here. One is going top end. One is going right in that mid range to low to mid range. Because the Asian watch madness for me is something that is affordable. When you think of Asian watch, you don't think of Grand Seikos and you don't think of Minezes. They're the outliers in the industry. When somebody buys a Japanese or Chinese watch, they're not buying it for high retail value. They're not buying it for collectability.
I would agree with Drew on this one.
Okay,
I would.
And that's something that
Actually, the people that do buy Grand Seikos are not in this other like they're in like the Omegas, the Rolexes,
they
the
collect Swiss watches.
I will agree with
so
you on this one.
when you're dealing with somebody who's looking for a watch, an everyday Joe who's looking for a watch for $200-$300, guys, just go get a fucking Orient. It's much easier for somebody just to go get it, and it'll last you a long time. Again, it's backed by its parent company, Seiko, which is in the finals as well. So it's not like it's nobody you've ever heard of. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody had Bolova winning it. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody had Citizen winning it, because they're all derivative. The two behemoths are Citizen and Seiko.
I'd be surprised if someone had Michael Kors winning it, or something else.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe Rosie O'Donnell. But outside of that, I don't know anybody else who would have that. But you got two great brands here, whether you're going high end or you're going more towards the regular.
You can make the argument absolutely either way.
There is your champions, guys, for 2020.
All right.
And this episode.
So I just want to segue into the next episode. I'm going to just do a quick little woo there. That was quick. Now, here's how we're going to end this episode. Okay? By the way, thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Please.
If you guys have...
like, subscribe, fill out some brackets.
Yeah, let us know.
I'm posting it in the beginning
By the way,
of the episode.
I actually have not been on our It's About Time channel in a long time. I will say that I've been, between doing this one and then my channel, it's been very interesting. I mean, I don't have a lot of subscribers. I only have like 61. It's a little pathetic compared to what our channel has. But like I said, check my channel if you want. I love doing both. And I know, are you still doing your
I am
channel?
doing watch.
Okay.
Yep.
So
I do one a month.
So we each have our own, and then we each have one, which actually I happen to love, because it's kind of cool. We both have great content. I'm going to endorse both channels here, which is absolutely wonderful. And we're going to put a link to my channel and his channel below, so you guys can go check out both. I love watching his videos, and I enjoy making mine just as much. I'm going to ask you a question to segue, because we're going to be, the next episode is going to be Bad Boy. All right, so Drew, how many watches approximately do you have in your collection?
I'm guessing probably around 32.
32, okay.
Yep.
Out of your 32, what would you say, if you had to choose one as your nicest or whatever it is, what would it be?
You know what's my favorite watch in my collection?
Maybe not your favorite, but what's like your kind of best, nicest in like your category? Like let's say you had to choose one of your watches, okay, that you would literally wear just about every day. You wouldn't really worry about having almost anything happen to it. It doesn't have to be necessarily your number one or your favorite, but what's kind of like your best watch out of all 30? I know it's kind of like hard to ask that question because I know you have a lot, but what's the one that you could literally wear every day, put through almost anything, and you wouldn't, even if it got scratched, nothing would happen to the watch itself? Like what's one? I have to put him on the spot. I have to, because we're segueing into the next episode.
Probably my Omega Diamond Constellation.
Your Omega Diamond Constellation. Yeah. Okay.
Because I've had it. It's been through everything. So I could say it's gone through everything. Really close. I mean, my Rolex has come really close in behind it. I have as he knows, I have a lot of brands, and I love them all. But the Constellation has been number one for me for years. Still my favorite watch. Don't wear it much anymore because of how many I do have now. But I bring it out for my good occasions.
But if you had to wear it let's just say you had to wear it every day,
I wouldn't be embarrassed to wear it anywhere. I could wear it for any occasion, any event, and be proud any time with it. There's certain watches that are only good for certain things, like the one I told you, of course, the Quorum Admiral's Cup. This is great for down the shore because you're telling high tide and low tide. It doesn't actually work at a wedding. So, there's some that are dress watches. There's some that are divers watches. There's some, that one's everything. Because it's got the water resistance for it too.
Well, so we're gonna go into the next episode. I want Drew to just keep this in mind. Now, when you bought it, did you buy it brand new?
No.
You know, okay. Anyways, I'm going to cut this short because I'm going to ask Drew a lot of questions as we get in the next episode. But we had a segue in.
Again, thanks. Guys, like, subscribe. You know all the rules.
Absolutely.
We're going to have. Again, the channels we're managing right now.
Next, I brought up the idea of the next episode. I wanted to bring it up here. The next episode, actually, what I want to do, because we did this, we've done some, for this channel. I want to do a comparison on the timing machine of the movements, and we could even open up some of the watches if you feel comfortable. Whatever.
Just don't go with this watch.
That's fine. Between the Swiss and the Japanese brand, since we've done the March Madness for Swiss, and we've done now for
an Asian March Madness.
Now
it's
that's
really cool.
Well, the next episode is going to be what we're going to be doing next, but then after that, we're going to go into the accuracy and the movements on the Swiss versus the Japanese. We're going to hook them up to the time grapher.
Sounds good. I like it. All right, guys, thanks for joining us again. We hope you enjoyed our March Madness episode. Great luck with your brackets.
Wait till you guys see the next episode. Oh my God, this is ridiculous.
We'll see you on the next episode of
It's About Time.